Okay, in this video I'm going to show you guys how to design a wrap real quick and then flip the template around to design the other side and make it match exactly. So I've got a smaller scale template open here in Photoshop, and you notice it's a photograph, and this is one of the reasons why I always tell people don't use photographs to design your vehicle wraps. And if you notice, I pull this guide down here and touch it right on the edge of the tailgate. You can see there's a big slope to the vehicle, and that may or may not be because of the angle of the camera or whatnot. So the way you can check it also is to come down here at the very bottom. You can see it looks like the picture is actually angled forward a little bit. So on designing a wrap like this, I would just rotate the entire template to be straight. And then whenever you put your logos and stuff on there, like the logo I designed for this is actually going to fit right on the door within the entire door, so there's no splice through it. Definitely everything should be straight, and then whenever you flip it around to do the other side, it would be very easy to just flip everything horizontally, and there's really nothing special about that. You know, you just flip the logo around after you flip the template. But if you're rotating things on angles, especially text or logos or things like that, and you go to do the other side, it can get a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how we take care of that. I'll go ahead and get rid of those guides, and so I'm just going to leave the template at an angle so that we have something to work with on the other side. And so the first thing I'm going to do is open up my background. Decided we're going to do a landscaping company wrap. So this is obviously the lawn machine off of our website here, and this transparent TIFF grass file, and what I'm about to do requires a transparent TIFF. This is something that you won't be able to do with a photograph. And then also I'm using the blue sky file. So we'll just click and drag the grass into the template, and you notice my machine has already given up on me. And shrink it down. I'm just holding shift and alternate to get it to scale correctly and proportionately. And so if you notice here, while I'm doing this layout, what I'm going to try to do is keep the grass from getting up here near the hood, because if you end up installing this and it's off a little ways or this way, you know, or that way, you'll end up with grass falling into your hood. And I would design the entire hood to be the blue sky background so that it was easy to match right along this area. You can even fade to blue or white on the edges, whichever it lends itself to once you place the sky on there, and then it'll be a real nice transition from the side to the hood. So go ahead and copy this and close it and paste it, and we'll move it behind the grass. And I'm going to zoom out here using Control minus. That way whenever I go to shrink this down, I don't have to keep grabbing the handles a whole bunch of different times. And if you notice on this sky image here, if I keep moving it up along the grass, the perspective of the clouds actually starts to look better. So just be careful that you don't get the edge too close to these the blades of grass here, because you can start to see the edge coming up there. So just be careful not to do that, and you'll be all right. The next thing I'm going to add is the lawn machine here. So just select all, copy, and then paste. Zoom out again using Control minus. I'm going to go ahead and move this forward. And so, like I said before, I planned on putting the logo on the door and a phone number back up in here. So I'm going to leave enough room for all of those things to jump in there. Get this shrunk down where it looks good. And you notice I haven't rotated anything when I was scaling here. I didn't do any rotation whatsoever, and that's going to be important when you go to do the other side. If we had rotated something here, I'll show you what we would have needed to do here in a sec. But so you notice I dropped this mower in here, and it doesn't really look like it's there. It's like floating in midair. So something we can do real quick here is just add a drop shadow to it. I'm just going to click OK because I'm going to adjust it after I create a layer from it. So we'll just right click this and click Create Layer. And then I'm going to select that drop shadow, get my transform controls out and shrink it down like this, and then here I'll zoom in for you so you can see this a little better. I'm actually going to line up the edge of the shadow with the bottom of the wheel right here. You can even go inside the wheel just a little bit using the arrow keys to move it around and shrink it down just a little bit more, and that's starting to look a little better. What I'm going to do now is make a duplicate of this, so I'll just hold alternate like I showed you before in the other videos and drag out a copy. And what I'm going to do with this copy is filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And I've got it set to a radius of 4.3 pixels, but this is a smaller image. If it was a full-size wrap, you'd have to go larger on your radius and to make this look right. And the whole reason behind why we're doing this is because the shadow should be a little bit more crisp as it's closer to the mower and a little bit more blurry as it's farther away. You know, this is quite a bit higher off the ground. So now I'm going to reselect my original drop shadow and grab my eraser and make sure I've got the hardness all the way down, and I've got a pretty good sized diameter on it. And this is going to depend on the size of your shadow, you know, so we'll just give this a shot here. So now you've got a decent little fade there. You may want to come in and touch some of these areas just a little bit, and that's kind of going to be your preference. You can see if I turn that off what it looks like, and then when I turn it back on how much nicer and more realistic that looks. So then we're going to select all three of those, the mower and both shadows, and merge them together. Layer, merge, layers. If you click merge visible, it'll merge the whole file flat, and you don't want to do that. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to get my one of my selection tools. That way when I make a selection I can move it around. And then I'm going to load selection on this grass by holding control and clicking that layer, or you can select the layer, click select, and load selection. Whoops. And then it will load selection on it. And what we're going to do is take this selection area and drag it down here by the wheel like this. I'll zoom in a little bit where you can see it. And then I'm simply just going to hit delete. Whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. Hit delete. And now when we deselect, we've got grass sticking up in front of the tire. Now we're starting to really look like she's in the picture. So the next thing you can do too, if you notice I've got a little bit of grass clippings that are stray here. I can get a hard eraser and make it a little bit smaller. I should have done that before I merged it actually. So let's step back a little bit here. I was just hitting Control-Alt-Z to step backwards. So we're just going to come in there and clean up these grass clippings just a little bit. And then we're going to merge them together. And then we can load our selection on the grass again, drag it down here, and hit delete. Now we've got some nice grass coming up around the mower edge. And the next thing is going to be just to add our phone number and logo. So this is where the layout gets a little bit tricky. So let's get our lawn care logo open here. And so you notice the lawn care, there's a gap here between the L and the bottom, and the E's already on that body line. So when we go to shrink this down, we'll get it about to where we want it, and then zoom in a little bit, Control plus and minus to zoom in and out. And what I'm going to do is grab the center of this and drag it out here to this corner, and that allows me to have a pivot point right there in that corner. So when I rotate, I'm going to rotate on that corner. And you can actually move this anywhere in the dock, you know, wherever you want. You can even move it out here and it'll pivot way out there. So anyway, we'll stick that on the corner and go ahead and rotate and scale until it's about right, holding shift to keep your proportions correct. And if you notice the bottom line here, that's pretty close. We'll go ahead and call that good. And before you click OK to end the selection, you want to note the rotation angle that you did and write that down. So that's a perfect -1 degree angle that we put on this logo. So we'll go ahead and write that down on a piece of paper that's what we did, and then click OK. And then we're going to go in here and grab the phone number that I had already pre-made real quick. And these are just simple layer styles that, if you were wondering what's inside the Speedy Green here, that's actually the vector grass tips file that's off our site. It's an actual vector file. And so what we're going to do when we scale this phone number to fit and rotate is we're going to also note the exact position. I'm going to go ahead and make it minus 1.5 exactly. Whoops. You want to make it a negative 1.5. And that way we can write that down. And so when we go to do our other side, we'll go ahead and save this file, save, and that's going to be our driver's side. You'd want to name it that, obviously. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. And so to do the opposite side, we're going to go image, duplicate, and that's going to make an entire copy. So we can close out the one that we made for the driver's side, and now we're going to go image, rotate canvas, and then flip canvas horizontal, and that's going to flip the entire thing. And so now what we need to do is come back in here and rotate our logos back into what they were. And so if you remember, we had a 1 degree, a negative 1 degree on the logo itself. So when I get my transform tools out, I'm going to click the edge to get them live. Don't drag or anything when you do it, just click it. And then I'm going to right click and go flip horizontal. And you notice that my angle's way off. So what we're going to do is come in here and we're going to actually, what you want to do is double the amount of angle that you put on it. So if it was a 45-degree angle on the other side, it would be 90 on this side. And since we did 1 degree on the other side, this one's going to be 2 degrees. And if you notice, now we're lined up just right. That's falling right on the door. And you see I moved it over. You probably don't want to do that. You could adjust it forward and backwards for the door edges, because it is a slight different angle. But essentially that's how you do it. Come in here to the phone number, click on it, right click, flip horizontal, and then you remember we did 1.5 degrees on here, so it'd be 3 degrees on this side. Just double it. You notice that's laying perfect. So that's going to get your layouts to be exactly the same on both sides. That's pretty much it. It's time to save that as the passenger side and move on to doing the rear. And as far as lining up the rear, I don't have an actual template on this for the rear of this. It's just a picture I picked up online. But it'd be real easy. What you want to do is note where your grass is coming into the tail light here, which this is a good place to stick it, by the way, is where it falls off into the tail light right there. And that way when it comes out of the tail light, it could be at a slightly different height and your eye's not going to catch it. If you were to drag the grass down lower like this, it'd be a lot more difficult to line it up perfectly over here. So that's something to think about when you're doing your layouts. And you know, if you were trying to do it perfect, what you'd want to do is get both of these open at the same time and try to guesstimate or measure exactly how far away the tip of this grass is from the bottom of your tail light, and then also measure that same distance from the bottom of your tail light on your rear template, and that would get you around the back. Anyways, guys, we are running a sale right now. If anybody's interested on auroragraphics.net, that's DVDs and individual downloads. That sale will end April 4th, 2017, and the promo code is AG317. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to be putting out more of these videos. I'm sorry it's been so long since the last one, but I'm getting a new computer. That should be here anytime. My other one junked a hard drive on me. So anyways, we'll actually be able to do some full-size stuff then as well. So thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time.